Hello retro fans! Welcome to another episode of C64 Customs, and this time I'm kind of returning to the C64 in a way that, I picked up something from my shelf which I have kind of ignored for, a couple of months, or yeah, indeed. And, I want to spend some time with the Ultimate 64. I've learned that there are some new features due to recent firmware updates and something like this, and I just want to kind of install the most recent firmware, and I want to see what has been improved. I want to do some testing, just want to run a couple of games or demos or something like this and see how this whole thing is actually working. So stay tuned, and we'll see what this session is going to bring. This whole thing, as you can see, it's already running, and as usual it's kind of open on my desk. I was just checking whether that whole thing is still working at all, and I think as a very first action we, let's say, go and perform a reset so that we can start from the very beginning. And then we have to find our firmware, which is somewhere here in my directory. I may have, or maybe I should have remembered the name of the update. Maybe that's this one, but let me briefly check this, that we're not running into any issues, that it's called update underscore 1.34, so it's supposed to be this one, and let's do this. I think this is going to take a couple of minutes or so, and as I said, I have kind of ignored the Ultimate 64 for quite a long time, since I had a couple of other things, and but now I thought it's about time to come back to this very nice piece of hardware and have a look what has been changed in the meantime. It's a bit dusty, so I may have to do some cleaning. And I haven't attached any SID chips so far, because I want to have a look at the Ultimate SID emulation as well. I may stop touching this board while doing the update. Who knows what's going to happen when I keep touching those connectors. Reset configuration not required, so no. Turning off machine in 5 seconds. So I'm going to expect a blank screen, and I think we have to start it manually in order to see something. And here we go. So it looks like the picture is a bit offsetted, so see if we can move it back to, it is rather huge, so I may have changed something in my FrameMeister settings. So let's have a look. Oh, this looks horrible. Oh, even worse. That's very small. Coming closer. It is a bit weird that unsupported. Interesting. Well, let's stick to this one. It has worked so far, and even the scan lines are looking quite nice. So I may have to readjust this. I think the main reason is that I had to use a dedicated HDMI input for the Ultimate in the past, but since I have changed my setup, I have to run this through the HDMI input of the FrameMeister, and I was using the kind of a direct output mode, but I had a couple of issues with the picture format and all that things, so I had to go for this mode, which is probably not the best to, well, route this video signal through OBS, but we are going to cover a second method in a couple of minutes, and let's see if this is going to work a little bit better. So anyway, what I have learned so far is that we have a couple of new features like a turbo mode, and I'm really interested in to see how this one is working. And let's enable our LED. Is it one strip intensity? Just, yeah. Data streams. Ah, okay. Now this has been changed. This looks now different. Okay, interesting. This has been a separate menu. I think it was. It's here still. Okay. Okay. But now we can configure the addresses here and U64 specific settings. System mode. PAL. Just analog video mode. Video mode. Speaker volume. Turbo control. Manual. U64 turbo registers. Turbo enable bit. Whatever. CPU speed. Wow. Indeed. 48 megahertz. This sounds dramatic. What CPU detect? Okay. So let's see if we can find a game that is actually kind of utilizing this. And what I have in mind is basically Super Mario Bros. I'm not even sure whether I have this as image here, or since I have this as a cartridge rebuild. So it's probably not going to be here. But as far as I remember, I had created a directory with turbo games. So probably it's somewhere here on my USB stick, but perhaps it's somewhere else. Games. Super Mario. There we go. Probably not the most recent version, but well. So it looks like it has detected the turbo, but now I think we're going to need a, well, gamepad. That's probably not going to work without one. Yeah, so let me pick up a gamepad quite quickly. So, I think the best way is to go for Diagnostics 64 adapter. And so I'm not sure which one is okay. Looks like both of them. So probably not so important. Then let's start with the wired version. And let's see if we can achieve something. So, just have to get familiar. Oh. I have to admit it feels a bit different compared to the NES. And indeed it looks a bit different, since the C64 has not as much colors as the NES. But, well, overall. It's very funny to see Super Mario on C64. That's probably something nobody really has expected. Oh. So, anyway, not going to play through the whole game, and as you may already imagine, if I keep playing like this, I'm not going to make it to the end anyway. And I mean, the main purpose was simply to check whether the turbo mode is detected. And I think it looks like this, yeah. And I'll probably go and check this with other games as well. Yep, perfect. So, hopefully that's game over. Yes. So that's working pretty nice. That's cool. Let's see what we can find as well. I think Bomberman has detected some component. Run disk. Loading. So it looks like I have to enable JiffyDOS, which I think had used in the past on the Ultimate64 as well, but I'm actually not sure because I was more into the Pi 1541 floppy emulation and have used more of the original C64 hardware in the past, so I'm perhaps a little bit off with this. Oh yes, it says C128, so it has detected the turbo bit, looks like, or turbo bit, whatever you want to call it. And gamepad is working as well. But the next time I think I'm going to run this from the cartridge. I haven't remembered that the disk version is so slow. That's quite surprising. But talking about cartridges, that's something I want to test as well. So I have already picked 2 cartridges where I'm really looking forward to whether they are working or not. And that's going to be the next thing. Oh, story, yes. And more loading. Okay, then let's have some tea. So this game is actually perhaps not in this first level, but in later levels when everything gets a little bit busy, it starts to stutter a little bit, and increased CPU speed of the 128 or now the Ultimate64 is kind of improving this whole thing, and this makes it very comfortable to play this game. And see if we can leave the level. Yes, and I expect some more loading. Indeed, there it is. So in the meantime, let's say I'd like to test something else, because what we have seen in the menu already is that we can start the Wiki stream. I'm going to die right now. And I haven't tested this for a while. I was just into this as it was brand new, and the capture application on the Windows side was still, let's say, very beta. But now this has kind of left the beta state, and I have prepared already a profile where we can have a look at the stream, and it should be possible to start the stream from the streamer app. And as you can see, the screen looks a little bit different, and I can't move anymore. Is it in 2-player mode? Perhaps? Or... no, that's one thing, yeah. Interestingly, that this happened. If we are using the HDMI overlay, then we can't see this menu in the stream. So let's see whether we can disable this. So that's supposed to be one of this. Okay. User interface settings, overlay, freeze, save change. Okay, so if we switch back to the stream now, we can see the menu, yes. And the reason why I couldn't move was that we got stuck in the menu, and now everything is fine. So the streaming app has quite a nice, let's say, usage, because if you want to stream with the Ultimate64, you're not required to use any capturing device anymore, because you can use this application, and therefore, even with a very low amount of hardware, you are able to stream Ultimate64 gaming sessions, whatever you want to call this. There's just one downside I have found on my side. You can't configure the audio output. So usually if I do something like this, I'm using some kind of dummy output, audio output device, which I can capture with OBS. And now this streaming app directly outputs to my speakers, and I have to capture the audio output, which causes some issues with having the audio on my speakers and capturing this at the same time. So it may get captured by the microphone again, and we have some kind of reverb or delay effect on the audio. But as you can see, it is working quite fine. It has a slight delay compared to the HDMI capture method. So for gaming it's perhaps not the best method, so it's probably a better way to switch to a, let's say, TV screen for playing, but using the stream to capture the audio and video of the Ultimate64 in the background. And as you can see, it's getting a little bit busier now, with more sprites on the screen moving, but the game still runs very fluidly. So this is really very nice, having this feature on the Ultimate64. Now I blocked myself in the corner, and well, so much about playing Bomberland on the Ultimate64. So let's switch back to this view. So that's still the streaming mode, and it's quite easy to spot because there are no scan lines. And maybe that's a feature that's hopefully coming in a future update of the Ultimate U64 streamer. I'm really looking forward to say some more features of it, and hopefully he's going to change the output method as well. Really like to pick one audio device from my standard Windows audio device so that I can use a dummy output device to capture this in OBS without having this on my speakers, because usually if I'm going to capture games or something like this, I let OBS output the audio to my speakers, and since there's a small delay from the original audio and audio captured and outputted by OBS, you get this kind of echo effect, and therefore I really have to be careful with the volume as well, otherwise my microphone will capture the audio as well, and then it gets really busy. So as we can see, games are running fine on the Ultimate 64 with the newest firmware version, and even the streaming works very nice, and even the Nunchuck 64 adapter with my Nintendo NES fake controllers, they are not original obviously, and yep, they're working quite fine as well. The next thing I'd like to do is to see whether Messiah is working on the Ultimate 64, because initially it was one of my plans to use this board for my music setup as well. I just have to make some space so that we can plug in this cartridge to the Ultimate. So let's switch it off. And let's see if we can start Messiah. So far so good. Press any key. And let's test Monosynth. But before we do so, let's see if we can sit configuration. Nope, wrong screen. SID addressing. Let's put the second SID to D. I think it was DF. Oh no, this one. That we get two SIDs on Messiah. I hope it was DF or it was DE. We will see. So. I hope we haven't confused Messiah. Shouldn't take so long. Let's start from the very beginning. That's not really expected. I was looking for something different. So we made it to the start screen, which is indeed quite nice. But now we're kind of stuck in the middle. So let's switch it off. Wait a second, and then let's start it again. So the reason for this, let's say, behavior is that the Messiah cartridge is using some sort of copy protection, and this causes issues on almost all of the non-C64 original hardware boards. So it's quite common to see this on the reloaded MK1 or on the reloaded MK2. And I had the very same issues in the past on the Ultimate64. And the recommendation is usually to use a hardware reset. And most of the time you can get this cartridge to run on the reloaded boards. But it looks like we have some issues on the Ultimate64. But, well, let's try something else. Perhaps it is not on DF, it is on DE. Maybe that's the reason why it's not starting any longer. This looks much better. So let's run Diagnostics audio. Okay. Okay. Ah, I see. I think the problem we're facing right now is that we are still in turbo mode. So I think we have to disable this. This was CPU speed. Much better. So that's interesting. So we may use this for something else in the future. Messiah on turbo mode. So maybe we can run the sequencer at a different speed or so. That's going to be a mess with the timing and getting this synced to any other hardware, but well. And here we go for the Monosynth, and you may remember the sound. I have used the very same patch on my previous video where I was talking about modular synthesis. And the thing I'm going to check here right now is that we're going to detune the two sits. We may get a different sound. Not that much. Ah yes, now the two sits aren't running in parallel mode, so they are kind of detuned a little bit, so you get some broader, let's say, stereo sound. And well, that's quite nice. I think one of the former issues was that we couldn't exit Messiah or the Monosynth. But this looks much better now. Let's jump into the sequencer and have a brief look here. And here we're going to need, I think, a mouse or a joystick. But as far as I remember, we could use the F keys as well. Just have to remember which one. So that's probably not as good as I expected this. And this, but it is indeed weird because the F keys should move our So it looks like we got stuck here. That's really strange. I may have to test this on a real C64, but as far as I remember, I could use the Commodore and the function keys to move my mouse cursor, and maybe it's related to... Nope. Very strange. So, well, let's say that this is at least working to a certain level. And let's move on to test something else. And this is going to be the SID Chip Club cartridge I have received a couple of weeks ago already, and haven't spent that much time with it. So that's going to be the next thing I'd like to test with the Ultimate64. I just had a very brief session using this cartridge in a normal C64 environment, and I'm not even sure whether this supports 2 SIDs. It's not mentioned somewhere. Nope. I thought it was something like this. Anyway. So you may remember the project. It was a crowdfunding, I think a Kickstarter project. And it is a cartridge full of SID music. And if you know Allman or Marcus Klein, then you know that he has a very certain or very, let's say, unique style. And a lot of people I have kind of, let's say, presented this sort of music. I'm really surprised to see that this is coming out of a C64, because some of his sounds are really very, very, let's say, unusual for the C64 perhaps. So, and we can just play them all in a row, and we have some sort of visuals as well. They are not as stunning as let's say the dub card, for example, but well, we have at least some flashy borders. And it looks like it is just running on one SID. And I have some panning on the SIDs, yes. Therefore we have the audio just on slightly off-centered. but let's see if we can set this to 420. Nope, no changes. Not even sure whether we can leave the autoplay mode. Probably not. So, anyway. Yes. By pressing either run stop or space, I'm not even sure. But the nice thing is what we can see right now. Let's see whether we can capture this a little bit. As you can see, we got some flashy LED light inside the Ultimate case here. So this is working as well, very nice. And well, yeah, basically that's all what I have in mind for this session, and going to browse a little bit through the different settings just to see whether I can find something surprisingly new. But what I've seen in the release notes is that there are a couple of bug fixes as well, and mostly this turbo mode is the newest feature Gideon and Marcus have added to the Ultimate64, and this makes it really a very kind of outstanding feature. And it is really very interesting to see that now we have basically a second product which is in a, let's say, affordable range. If we talk about the Super CPU, for example, which is kind of very expensive piece of hardware, and if we compare the Ultimate64 with the Turbo Chameleon, for example, they kind of similar. Well, the Ultimate64 is still a cheaper option, but you need some additional hardware around this as well. Well, I mean, for the Turbo Chameleon we need the keyboard and something like this. So it's basically not very different from this setup, and here we got the features of HDMI output combined with this turbo feature, and this is very, very interesting because a couple of the older games have been released as turbo optimized versions. So I did an episode quite a well, I think a year ago, something like this, about turbo games on the C64, and this would be very nice to test those games on the Ultimate with this current firmware version. And well, depending on time and mood, and well, I may do this. I'm not going to promise anything, but sounds like something I can spend some time with. Anyway, that's all for this episode. I think we have covered the main features, like the turbo feature, like the streaming feature, and so the streaming just stopped due to our resets and restarts, but well, the very nice thing is that we can start the streaming out of the streaming app, so we do not have to go through the menus of the Ultimate, and we can capture this quite easily with OBS. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. I'm looking forward to your comments, and if you are interested in certain other things about the Ultimate64, feel free to ask. And then, as usual, thank you very much for watching. Highly appreciate it. Bye bye.